Chapter 1. The silent weight of what we carry in the gentle embrace of this moment. As your eyelids grow heavy and your breath begins to deepen, there exists within you a vast field of pure potential, your quantum field, shimmering with the accumulated frequency of every emotion you've ever experienced. This field pulses quietly beneath your conscious awareness, carrying the vibrational signature of joy you've celebrated, love you've shared, and also the tender weight of feelings you've carefully tucked away. Tonight, as your body settles into the softness of rest, you're invited to sense this invisible landscape within yourself. It's not a place you need to travel to, it's already here, woven into the very fabric of your being. Your quantum field is like a vast ocean, and each emotion you've ever felt creates ripples across its surface. The feelings you've welcomed and expressed move through this field like gentle waves, flowing freely and creating coherent patterns of energy. But the emotions you've pushed down, the ones that felt too big or too dangerous or too inconvenient, these don't simply vanish into nothingness. Instead, they settle into the depths of your field like silt at the bottom of a lake, creating layers of unexpressed energy that subtly influence everything above. Your suppressed anger becomes a low-frequency hum that colors your interactions. Your unprocessed grief creates pockets of density that slow the flow of your natural magnetism. Your compressed joy forms crystalline structures that reflect back only fragments of your full radiance. As you breathe in this moment, you might begin to notice how your body holds the memory of these suppressed emotions. Perhaps there's a familiar tightness in your chest where excitement learned to dim itself. Maybe your shoulders carry the weight of disappointment that never found its voice. Your throat might hold the echo of words that wanted to be spoken, but were swallowed instead. These aren't flaws in your system, they're the tender evidence of a psyche that learned to protect itself. A nervous system that develops strategies for navigating a world that sometimes felt unsafe for. The full spectrum of your emotional truth. Your body, in its infinite wisdom, created these holding patterns not to harm you, but to help you survive moments when feeling fully felt too risky. But here's what your survival system couldn't have known then. Every emotion you suppress continues to broadcast its signal into your quantum field. Like radio stations playing simultaneously on overlapping frequencies, these unexpressed feelings create a kind of electromagnetic static that interferes with your clearest communications to the universe. Your desires get tangled in the frequency of old hurts. Your attractions become clouded by the vibrational noise of unprocessed experiences. This is why you might sometimes feel like you're sending mixed signals to life itself, part of you yearning for love while another part broadcasts the frequency of old heartbreak. Part of you calling in abundance while another part hums with the vibration of scarcity. Learned long ago, your field is trying to transmit multiple messages at once, and the universe, like a sensitive radio receiver, picks up all of these signals simultaneously. Tonight, in the sacred space between waking and sleeping, you don't need to fix this or change it or even fully understand it. You simply need to acknowledge what has been, to honor the beautiful, complex symphony of your emotional experience without judgment. Your suppressed emotions aren't obstacles to be overcome. They're messengers that have been waiting patiently for you to be ready to receive their gifts. Each feeling you push down carries within it a specific quality of energy that, when finally allowed to move and restore clarity to your field. Your unexpressed anger holds your healthy boundaries. Your hidden sadness contains your capacity for deep empathy. Your compressed excitement carries the seeds of your authentic enthusiasm. These emotions haven't been wasted or lost, they've been preserved, waiting for the moment when you feel safe enough to let them flow. As your breathing slows and your nervous system begins to shift into its natural rest state, you might sense something shifting in your field, a gentle loosening, like ice beginning to thaw. This isn't something you need to force or direct. Your body knows how to do this. Your psyche has been preparing for this moment of integration for longer than you realize. In the quantum realm, nothing is ever truly lost, only transformed. The emotions you've carried in silence have been gathering energy, building pressure, waiting for their moment of release and integration. They don't need to explode outward in dramatic catharsis, they can simply begin to move, like gentle streams finding their way back to the ocean of your wholeness. Your observer effect, that part of you that can witness without needing to immediately change what it sees, begins to awaken. As you settle deeper into rest, this observer doesn't judge your suppressed emotions or try to analyze them. It simply notices, with infinite tenderness, the landscape of your inner world. It sees the places where energy has been held and the places where it flows freely. It recognizes the patterns without needing to immediately rearrange them. From this place of gentle witnessing, you might begin to sense how your suppressed emotions have been like gentle ghosts in the machinery of your attraction, not malevolent presences, but rather shy aspects of yourself that have been waiting for acknowledgement. They've been influencing your magnetic field not out of spite, but out of a deep longing to be seen, felt, and integrated back into the wholeness of who you are. As you drift toward the threshold of sleep, carrying with you this new awareness of your inner landscape, you rest in the profound recognition that healing doesn't require you to become someone different. It simply invites you to become more fully yourself, to reclaim the parts of your emotional spectrum that you learn to hide, and to allow your field to broadcast with the full range of your authentic frequency. What if the very feelings you've been avoiding aren't blocks to your manifestations, but rather the missing frequencies that would make your attractions complete? Chapter 2. When the heart speaks in frequencies, your heart is speaking to you right now, not in words, but in waves. Each beat sends electromagnetic ripples through your body 60 times more powerful than the electrical symphony of your brain. As you settle into this moment, breathing slowly, you begin to sense something your mind has been occupied to notice: the quiet conversation your heart has been attempting all along. Feel your chest rising and falling, and with each breath, imagine you're tuning into a radio station that's been broadcasting your deepest truth. For so long, you've been listening to the static of overthinking, the interference of doubt, the competing frequencies of old wounds that haven't yet found their voice. But beneath all of this noise, your heart has been patiently transmitting its signal, waiting for you to remember how to receive its transmission. Your heart doesn't think in linear time the way your mind does. It speaks in the language of feeling, in electromagnetic patterns that ripple outward from your chest, like stones dropped into still water. Every emotion you've ever felt has left its signature in this field. Joy creates one frequency, grief another, love a third. Tonight, as you breathe deeper, you're learning to read the energetic language your heart has been writing all along. Notice how when you think of someone you love, your heart's rhythm shifts subtly. When you remember a moment of deep peace, the electromagnetic field around your chest expands. When you recall old hurt, you might feel a tightening, a contraction in this same space. Your heart is not just pumping blood, it's broadcasting the frequency of your inner world, creating ripples in the quantum field that surrounds and interprets your reality. This is why some desires feel effortless to manifest while others feel impossible. Your heart holds the emotional frequency that either aligns with or resists what you're trying to create. When your heart carries the unprocessed weight of old betrayal, it broadcasts a frequency of protection and withdrawal. When it holds unspoken grief, it transmits a vibration of loss. These frequencies don't make you broken, they make you human, but they also influence what the universe reflects back to you. Breathe into your heart space now, and imagine you're gently tuning a radio dial. What frequencies has your heart been broadcasting without your conscious awareness? Perhaps there's a station of worry that's been playing on repeat, or a channel of unworthiness that you inherited so young you thought it was your own voice. Maybe there's a frequency of anger that you learned was unsafe to express, so it's been transmitting underground, influencing your relationships in ways you couldn't understand. Your nervous system has been trying to protect you by keeping certain emotions at bay, but in doing so, it's also kept you from accessing the full spectrum of your heart's electromagnetic wisdom. When you were small and your big feelings were met with overwhelm or dismissal, your system learned to compress these energies, to turn down their volume. But energy doesn't disappear, it just changes form, broadcasting on frequencies you can't consciously hear, but that influence everything you attract. As you breathe, imagine your exhale as a gentle release, allowing any old frequencies that no longer serve you to dissolve back into the quantum field. With each inhale, you're creating space for your heart to remember its natural rhythm, its authentic vibrational signature. This isn't about forcing positive emotions or pretending pain doesn't exist. This is about creating enough safety in your nervous system for your heart to speak its truth, without the interference of old protective patterns. Feel how your heart wants to expand as you breathe. Notice how it responds when you offer a gentle attention rather than demanding to feel differently. Your heart has been waiting for this moment of recognition, this acknowledgement that it holds wisdom your mind cannot access. It understands the observer effect not as a scientific concept, but as a lived reality. It knows that how you feel about what you're observing directly influences what you experience. When your heart carries the frequency of genuine appreciation, it creates a magnetic field that draws experiences worth appreciating. When it holds the vibration of trust, it magnetizes trustworthy people and situations. This isn't magical thinking, this is the electromagnetic reality of how your emotional frequency influences the quantum events that collapse into your lived experience. Your heart remembers when you felt completely safe to feel everything, the full spectrum of human emotion without judgment or suppression. Perhaps this was before language, before you learned that some feelings were acceptable and others were not. Tonight, you're returning to that original frequency, that state of emotional authenticity where your heart can communicate clearly. With the field of infinite possibility, breathe deeper now and sense how your heart's electromagnetic field extends. Beyond your physical body, it reaches into the space around you, creating an invisible sphere of influence that touches everyone and everything in your environment. This field carries information, the frequency of your deepest beliefs about love, safety, worthiness, and possibility. Others can sense this field even when they can't name what they're feeling. You've felt it too. Walking into a room and immediately knowing something about the emotional atmosphere. Sensing someone's heart even before they spoke. As you continue breathing, imagine you're consciously choosing what frequency your heart broadcasts, not by forcing or controlling, but by creating enough internal space for your authentic emotions to move through you without resistance. When grief needs to flow, you let it flow, knowing that processing it fully allows your heart to return to its natural resonance. When joy wants to express itself, you don't dim it to make others comfortable, you let it radiate, knowing that genuine joy is one of the highest frequencies you can contribute to the collective field. Your heart is teaching you that manifestation isn't about getting your mind to believe the right thoughts. It's about allowing your emotional frequency to align with what you're calling in. When your heart feels genuinely worthy of love, it broadcasts worthiness, and the universe responds with reflections of that frequency. When your heart holds authentic trust in your own unfolding, it creates a field that magnetizes experiences that confirm this trust. This is the quantum frequency your heart naturally operates on, the space where feeling and manifestation dance together, where your electromagnetic field becomes a conversation with reality itself. Your heart doesn't just want things. It feels into the frequency of having already received them. It doesn't just hope for healing. It embodies the vibration of wholeness. It doesn't just wish for love. It becomes the electromagnetic signature of someone who knows they are loved. As you settle deeper into rest, feel how your heart is already broadcasting the frequency of everything you truly desire, not as something missing that you need to acquire, but as an energetic reality that you're learning to embody. Your heart knows that you are not separate from what you seek. You are the observer, whose loving attention collapses infinite possibilities into lived experience. Let your breath become a bridge between your conscious mind and your heart's electromagnetic wisdom. With each exhale, release any old programming that tells you your feelings are too much, not enough, or somehow wrong. With each inhale, receive the truth that your heart's frequency is your gift to the world, your unique contribution to the symphony of human experience. Your heart has been speaking in frequencies all along, broadcasting the truth of who you are. Beneath every story you've told yourself about limitation, tonight, as you drift towards sleep, you're finally learning to listen not with your ears, but with the electromagnetic field of your own loving awareness. What frequency is your heart whispering to you now, in this moment of perfect stillness? Chapter 3, The Observer Within the Storm. There is a part of you that has been watching all along. Even now, as your body settles into the softness of this moment, this eternal witness sits quietly within the center of your being, unmoved by the emotional storms that have raged through your system for so long. This is your observer effect in action, the quantum principle that reminds you that consciousness itself shapes reality through the simple, profound act of witnessing. Feel how your breath naturally deepens as you recognize this truth. Your observer self has been present through every moment of your life, watching with infinite patience as emotions rose and fell like waves in an endless ocean. It has witnessed the times when you chose to feel deeply, and it has also witnessed the countless moments when you chose numbness over feeling, when the intensity seemed too much to bear. Your observer doesn't judge these choices, it simply notices. It notices how each unprocessed emotion becomes like a collapsed quantum wave, frozen in time within your cellular memory. These emotional states, once fluid and moving, became crystallized patterns held within your nervous system, stored in the tissues of your heart, the chambers of your lungs, the deep muscles along your spine. Tonight, from this place of gentle witnessing, you can begin to see these patterns with new eyes. Your observer self invites you to notice, without criticism, the emotions you have been most afraid to feel. Perhaps it is anger that feels too dangerous, too explosive for your tender heart. Perhaps it is grief that seems like an ocean with no shore. Perhaps it is fear that whispers of vulnerabilities you've worked so hard to protect. As you breathe into this awareness, feel how your nervous system begins to soften. Your observer self creates a field of safety around these frozen emotions, like warm sunlight touching ice. This witnessing consciousness doesn't demand that anything change immediately. It simply holds space for what is, allowing the natural intelligence of your system to begin its own gentle thawing process. You can sense how suppression has been a kind of quantum collapse, taking infinite emotional possibilities and forcing them into rigid, predictable patterns. When you pushed down your anger, it collapsed into chronic tension in your jaw. When you held back tears, they crystallized into a tightness around your heart. When you silenced your voice, the words gathered like stones in your throat. But now, your observer consciousness offers something different. It offers the spaciousness of pure awareness, where emotions can exist as waves rather than particles, as flowing energy rather than fixed states. From this place of witnessing, you begin to understand that emotions were never meant to be problems to solve, but rather currents of life force meant to move through you. Like rivers finding their way to the sea, your breath becomes deeper, more rhythmic, as you rest in this understanding. Each exhale releases the need to control or manage your emotional landscape. Each inhale draws in the possibility of allowing these energies to flow naturally, to complete their ancient cycles of expression and integration. Notice how your body responds to this inner witnessing. Your shoulders may soften as you release the burden of emotional management. Your belly may expand as you make room for feelings to breathe within you. Your heart space may feel more open, more spacious, as you create room for the full spectrum of your human experience. The observer effect in quantum physics tells us that the very act of observation changes what is being observed. As you witness your own emotional patterns with this quality of loving awareness, you begin to change them simply through the power of your attention, not through force or manipulation, but through the gentle alchemy of conscious observation. You realize that your observer self has always known the truth that emotions are not your enemy. They are the very fabric of your aliveness, the ways your soul communicates through the language of feeling. Fear is love protecting. Anger is passion with boundaries. Sadness is love honoring what matters. Joy is love celebrating its own existence. From this expanded perspective, you can begin to feel how each suppressed emotion was actually a gift waiting to be unwrapped, a piece of your wholeness asking to be welcomed home. Your nervous system, which learned to contract around intensity, now begins to remember its natural capacity for expansion, for holding the full range of human feeling without overwhelm. As you continue to breathe in this space of witnessing, you might notice subtle shifts happening within you. Perhaps old tensions are beginning to soften. Perhaps there's a gentle stirring where numbness once lived. Perhaps you feel the first whispers of emotions that have been waiting patiently in the shadows of your consciousness. Your observer self smiles with recognition. It has been waiting for this moment, not the moment when you finally feel everything perfectly, but the moment when you remember that you are vast enough to hold whatever rises. You are the sky through which all weather moves. You are the ocean that remains peaceful even when waves dance across its surface. The storm was ever the problem. The problem was believing you were only the storm, forgetting you were also the vast space in which it moves. Tonight, as your consciousness settles into this deeper knowing, you reclaim your birthright as both the experiencer and the witness, both the wave and the ocean, both the dance and the dancer. Your breathing has become a gentle rhythm now, a soft pulse that connects you to the quantum field of infinite possibility. Each breath carries you deeper into the recognition that you have always been whole. Even when parts of you felt fragmented, you have always been perfect. Even when your emotions felt chaotic, you have always been love. Even when fear seemed to dominate your experience. As you drift toward the edge of sleep, your observer consciousness continues its gentle watch. It will be here throughout the night, holding space for any dreams that need to emerge, any emotions that need to move, any healing that wants to unfold in the safe darkness of your rest. From this place of profound witnessing, you can ask yourself, with infinite tenderness, what patterns do you notice in the emotions you've been most afraid to feel? And as sleep begins to embrace you, know that your observer self will continue to hold this question with love, allowing whatever needs to surface to do so in perfect timing, in perfect safety, in perfect trust. Chapter 4. The the sanctuary of stored sorrow. Your body is a living library, and tonight, as your breathing deepens into the rhythm of rest, you can sense the stories written in your flesh. There, in the tender curve of your shoulders, lives the weight of every burden you've carried for others. Your throat holds the echo of words you swallowed instead of speaking. Your chest carries the imprint of every goodbye that felt too soon, every love that couldn't find its voice. These are not wounds, they are sanctuaries, sacred spaces where your soul has carefully preserved what felt too precious, too raw, too overwhelming to fully experience in the moment it arrived. Your body, in its infinite wisdom, created these quiet chambers not to punish you, but to protect you until you were ready to meet these feelings with the tenderness they deserve. As you settle deeper into this moment, notice how your nervous system begins to recognize safety. The hypervigilance that has kept these emotions locked away starts to soften. Your parasympathetic system whispers to every cell, it is safe now to feel, safe now to remember, safe now to let these stored sorrows breathe out in your shoulders. Perhaps you sense the phantom weight of your mother's expectations, the invisible load of being strong for everyone else. Each muscle fiber holds the memory of times you bent forward under pressure, times you carried what wasn't yours to carry. But tonight, as your shoulders sink into the softness beneath you, you can imagine these burdens dissolving like salt in warm water, returning to the earth where they belong. Your throat, that delicate bridge between heart and voice, may hold the residue of every time you chose silence over truth. The words you didn't say to protect someone's feelings, the no you swallowed to keep peace, the I love you that felt too vulnerable to speak. As you breathe into this space, you might feel a gentle trembling, the tissues remembering their capacity to vibrate with authentic expression. And in the soft sanctuary of your belly, your emotional center, perhaps you can sense the stored grief that felt too vast to hold, the sorrow of dreams that didn't unfold as you imagined, the ache of connections that dissolved despite your best efforts, the tender bruise of being misunderstood by those you loved most deeply. These quantum events of feeling each unexpressed emotion create their own electromagnetic signature in your bioelectric field. Science shows us that suppressed emotions generate a specific frequency pattern, a kind of static that interferes with your nervous system's natural coherence. This stored sorrow isn't just psychological, it's energetic, creating interference patterns that can scatter your intentions like radio waves in a storm. But here in the darkness, as your body temperature drops and your brainwaves slow, something beautiful begins to happen. Your nervous system starts to differentiate between past and present, between stored trauma and current safety. The observer effect that governs quantum reality begins to work through your awareness. Simply by witnessing these sanctuaries with compassion, you begin to change their very nature. Each suppressed feeling has been like a wave function that never collapsed into resolution. The anger you couldn't express, held in suspension, the grief you couldn't fully feel, existing in quantum superposition. But your gentle attention tonight acts as a conscious observer, allowing these emotional waves to finally complete their natural cycle. As you breathe into your shoulders, you might sense them becoming softer, as if the tissues are remembering their natural state before they learn to armor themselves. The weight you've carried begins to redistribute, some of it dissolving entirely, some of it transforming into wisdom. Each exhale carries away what is no longer needed. Your throat may flutter with recognition as it remembers its true purpose, not just to protect through silence, but to create through sound. The vocal cords that held back your truth begin to vibrate with potential. Even in rest, they hum with the possibility of future authenticity. In your belly, that ancient seat of intuition may warm with relief as the stored sorrows begin to shift from solid to liquid, to vapor. The emotions you've carried like stones begin to flow like water, following gravity toward release. Your digestive system, so intimately connected to your emotional processing, sighs with recognition. Science reveals that emotional trauma creates specific patterns of muscle tension and neural firing that can persist for decades. But research also shows that in states of deep relaxation, your nervous system can actually rewrite these patterns. Tonight, your parasympathetic nervous system is creating the perfect conditions for this quantum healing, not by forcing or fixing, but by providing the safety necessary for natural resolution. As you sink deeper into rest, you might begin to understand that these sanctuaries of stored sorrow have been protecting something precious: your capacity for deep feeling, your exquisite sensitivity, your ability to love so fully that loss becomes devastating. The pain you've carried is proportional to your capacity for joy. The sorrow you stored is evidence of how deeply you've allowed life to matter. Your nervous system, wise beyond conscious understanding, created these holding patterns not as punishment, but as preservation. It knew that someday, when you felt safe enough, when you were ready enough, when you had developed enough capacity, you would return to these sanctuaries, not as a victim of your stored pain, but as a compassionate witness to your own tenderness. Each muscle that has held tension, each organ that has stored emotion, each cell that has carried the electromagnetic imprint of unexpressed feeling, they all begin to remember their essential nature tonight, not as repositories of pain, but as instruments of sensitivity, as receivers of the subtle frequencies that move between all living things. The quantum static that suppressed emotions, creating your bioelectric field, begins to clear as you breathe recognition into these spaces. Your heart's electromagnetic field, which extends several feet beyond your physical body, starts to pulse with greater coherence. The interference patterns dissolve, and suddenly, the frequency of your authentic desires can transmit more clearly. Through the quantum field that connects all things, your stored sorrows, you begin to understand, have been like undelivered letters to your soul, messages about what truly matters to you, what you value most deeply, what breaks your heart, because you care so profoundly. As these emotional sanctuaries soften in your awareness, the letters finally reach their destination. Your conscious mind receives the wisdom your body has been safeguarding. The shoulders that carry burdens begin to whisper about your desire for freedom. The throat that held backwards begins to hum with creative possibility. The belly that stored grief begins to warm with the recognition of your vast capacity for love. Tonight, as your nervous system continues its gentle unwinding, as your body temperature drops and your breathing deepens, these sanctuaries of stored sorrow transform into wellsprings of wisdom. The pain that once felt like interference becomes information. The static becomes signal. The wounds become doorways in this space between waking and sleeping. You might sense how these sanctuaries have been preparing you for something beautiful. How could you trust your deepest joy if you hadn't learned to navigate profound sorrow? How could you recognize authentic love if you hadn't felt the ache of its absence? How could you create from your truest self if you hadn't first discovered what living inauthentically costs you? As you drift toward sleep, let yourself wonder, what if your most tender places have been your greatest teachers all along? Chapter 5. The frequency of fear's false protection in the soft darkness of this moment. As your body settles deeper into rest, there's an ancient presence that has been walking alongside you for as long as you can remember. Fear, that primal guardian that appointed itself the keeper of your emotional safety. This fear didn't arrive as an enemy, though it may feel that way now. It came as a protector, whispering urgent warnings about the dangers of feeling too much, too deeply, too openly. As your breath slows and deepens, you can sense how this guardian fear has shaped the very architecture of your emotional experience. It learned, perhaps when you were very young, that big feelings could lead to big consequences: rejection, overwhelm, abandonment, or simply the unbearable intensity of a world that felt too much to hold. So fear, in its protective wisdom, began to teach your system a different way of being: compression, containment, the careful management of your emotional spectrum. You learned to keep your joy from becoming too bright, lest it attract unwanted attention or set you up for disappointment. You discovered how to dim your anger before it could be labeled as too much, too threatening, too inconvenient for others to witness. Your sadness learned to hide in the shadows. Your excitement learned to whisper instead of sing. And your love learned to offer itself in measured doses, rather than in the full flood of its natural expression. This emotional compression wasn't a failing of your system, it was an intelligent adaptation, a sophisticated survival strategy that your psyche developed to help you navigate a world that sometimes felt unsafe for the full truth of your inner experience. Your nervous system, in its infinite wisdom, learned to squeeze your emotional range into narrow, manageable frequencies that wouldn't threaten your belonging, your safety, or your sense of control. But tonight, as you rest in the gentle embrace of approaching sleep, you can begin to sense something that your protective fear couldn't have anticipated. This compression of your emotional spectrum has created quantum interference patterns throughout your entire field, like sound waves that cancel each other out when they meet at opposing frequencies. Your suppressed emotions haven't disappeared, they've continued broadcasting on unconscious channels, creating a complex web of mixed signals that permeates everything you attract. Your quantum field, that invisible network of energy and information that extends far beyond your physical body, operates on principles of vibrational resonance. Every emotion carries its own unique frequency signature, and when these emotions are allowed to flow naturally, they create coherent patterns that communicate clearly, with a field of infinite possibility around you. But when emotions are compressed, suppressed, or denied, they don't simply vanish, they become quantum static, broadcasting contradictory messages that confuse the very fabric of your reality. This is the quantum entanglement between your inner emotional world and your outer, manifested experience. Your suppressed anger continues to pulse beneath your conscious awareness, entangled with every interaction where you need to set boundaries. Your compressed excitement remains vibrationally linked to opportunities that could bring you joy, creating a push-pull dynamic that simultaneously calls them in and pushes them away. Your hidden grief stays quantum entangled with your capacity for deep connection, making intimacy feel both desperately wanted and terrifyingly vulnerable. As you breathe into the tender spaces within yourself, you might begin to notice how this creates a kind of emotional double bind in your field. Part of you broadcasts the frequency of desire for love, for success, for fulfillment, while another part simultaneously transmits the signal of the emotions you've learned to fear around these very desires. It's like trying to tune into a clear radio station while multiple other stations bleed through with their own competing signals, creating a cacophony that makes it nearly impossible to hear any single message clearly. Your fear-trained system learned to believe that managing emotions was the same as mastering them, that controlling feelings was equivalent to emotional intelligence. But what your protective fear couldn't understand is that emotions are not problems to be solved. They are information systems, guidance mechanisms, energetic messengers carrying vital data about your needs, your boundaries, your desires, and your deepest truths. When you compress your emotional range, you don't eliminate the inconvenient feelings. You simply force them to communicate through other channels. Your suppressed anger might emerge as chronic tension in your jaw or sudden outbursts that surprise even you. Your compressed sadness might manifest as a persistent heaviness that colors even your happiest moments. Your dim excitement might leak out as restlessness or dissatisfaction that you can't quite name or locate. These aren't signs that your system is broken. They're evidence that your emotions are trying to complete their natural cycles, to deliver their messages, to restore the full spectrum of your authentic frequency. Your psyche is constantly attempting to achieve quantum coherence, to align your inner frequency with your outer experience. But fear keeps interrupting this natural process with its well-meaning interference. Tonight, as your nervous system shifts into its natural rest state, you're invited to consider a radical possibility. What if your emotions are not chaotic forces that need to be managed, but rather sophisticated guidance systems that have been trying to help you navigate toward your most authentic life? What if the feelings you've learned to fear are actually messengers from your deepest wisdom, carrying information that your conscious mind couldn't access any other way? Your compressed excitement might be trying to show you what truly lights you up. Your suppressed anger might be attempting to teach you where your boundaries need to be drawn. Your hidden sadness might be guiding you toward what needs to be grieved, so that genuine joy can emerge. Your dim love might be showing you the full capacity of your heart, when it's no longer afraid of its own power. As you rest in this moment of gentle inquiry, you don't need to immediately change anything or force any particular emotional experience. Instead, you can simply begin to develop a new relationship with the ancient fear that has been protecting you. You can acknowledge its service, how it helped you survive, how it kept you safe, how it prevented you from being overwhelmed by forces that once felt too big to handle. And from this place of gratitude for fear's protective function, you can also begin to sense that you might be ready for a different kind of safety. Now, not the safety of emotional compression, but the safety of authentic expression within appropriate containers. Not the safety of never feeling deeply, but the safety of feeling fully while remaining grounded in your own presence. Your observer effect, that witnessing consciousness that can notice, without needing to immediately fix or change, begins to recognize the difference between fear that protects and fear that restricts. Protective fear keeps you safe from genuine danger. Restrictive fear keeps you small to avoid imaginary threats that may no longer be relevant to your current reality. The quantum field responds not to your conscious intentions alone, but to the full spectrum of frequencies you're broadcasting, both conscious and unconscious, both welcomed and suppressed. When you begin to trust that your emotions are allies rather than enemies, your field starts to coherently align around your authentic frequency, rather than the fragmented signals of compression and control. As you drift toward the edge of sleep, Carrying with you this new understanding of fear's protective role and its unintended limitations. You rest in the growing awareness that emotional freedom doesn't mean feeling everything. All at once, it means trusting that you have the capacity to feel whatever arises, when it arises, in whatever measure feels authentic and sustainable. What would it feel like to trust that your emotional guidance system has been trying to lead you home to yourself all along? Chapter 6. The rebellion of the unwitnessed self. There is a part of you that has never learned to be quiet, never learned to follow the rules of emotional suppression that were written before you could speak. Tonight, as your body settles into the safety of rest, you can finally feel this rebellious part of yourself, the one that refuses to be contained, the one that stages small revolutions in your nervous system when the pressure of being appropriate becomes too much to bear. Feel into your body now, breathing slowly, and notice how there's always been this underground current of aliveness that doesn't match the composed person you present to the world. This is your unwitnessed self, the part that holds every emotion you were told was too big, too messy, too inconvenient for others to handle. And this part of you is not passive. It does not simply disappear when ignored. Instead, it becomes a quantum rebel, creating what appears to be chaos, but is actually your psyche's intelligent attempt to restore its natural flow. Your unwitnessed emotions don't just sit quietly in some corner of your consciousness, waiting patiently to be addressed. They are dynamic, living energies that move through your system, whether you acknowledge them or not. When you try to contain them, they become like water behind a dam. The pressure builds until something has to give, and when it does, the release appears sudden, unpredictable, seemingly coming from nowhere. But it's not chaos. It's your system trying to return to coherence. Breathe deeper now, and remember the last time you felt anger that surprised you with its intensity. Perhaps someone said something relatively minor, but your response felt enormous, disproportionate. Your mind probably rushed in to judge this reaction, to label it as inappropriate or embarrassing. But what if this sudden surge wasn't a malfunction? What if it was a quantum event, a moment when all the unwitnessed frustration you've been carrying suddenly broke through the barriers of your composed facade? These emotional eruptions are not signs that you're broken or unstable. They are evidence that your psyche is more intelligent than your conscious mind really is. Your unwitnessed self understands something profound about quantum systems. When natural flow is restricted for too long, the system must eventually self-correct, sometimes dramatically, to prevent complete collapse. Your sudden tears, your inexplicable rage, your waves of sadness that seem to come from nowhere, these are not emotional failures. They are your inner rebel's way of saying, I refuse to be erased. Feel how your breath wants to deepen as you consider this. Your body knows the truth that your mind has been afraid to acknowledge. Suppression creates more chaos than expression ever could. When you push down your anger, it doesn't transform into peace. It becomes a pressure system that influences everything from your sleep patterns to your digestive system to the way you unconsciously push away the love you most want to receive. Your unwitnessed joy is perhaps the most powerful rebel of all. You've learned to dim your natural enthusiasm, to make yourself smaller so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable in the brightness of your aliveness. But joy, when suppressed, doesn't simply fade away. It goes underground and begins to sabotage the very systems that are trying to contain it. You find yourself feeling guilty when good things happen, or unconsciously creating problems just when life begins to flow smoothly. This isn't masochism. This is your suppressed joy staging a revolution, demanding to be seen and felt and expressed. As you breathe into this moment, imagine you're sensing the quantum field that surrounds your emotional experience. In quantum physics, systems that are forced into artificial states eventually undergo what scientists call spontaneous symmetry, breaking the sudden shift from an unstable configuration to a more natural one. Your emotional rebellions follow the same principle. When you've been holding yourself in an unnatural state of constant composure, constant strength, constant positivity, your system eventually rebels toward authenticity. These rebellions might look like self-sabotage from the outside, but from a quantum perspective, they're actually self-correction. Your unwitnessed self creates what appears to be chaos because it's trying to disrupt the false order that's been keeping you from your authentic emotional frequency. The part of you that suddenly can't maintain the job that was slowly suffocating you. The part that finds reasons to avoid the relationship that looks perfect on paper, but feels emotionally empty. This isn't sabotage. This is quantum intelligence in action. Feel into your chest now. And notice if there's a part of you that feels relief in acknowledging this inner rebel. For so long, you've been trying to manage these eruptions, to control them, to make them stop happening. But what if instead of trying to contain your unwitnessed emotions, you began to collaborate with them? What if these seemingly chaotic moments are actually invitations to greater coherence? Your nervous system has been operating like a pressure cooker, building up steam from all the unfelt feelings, all the unexpressed truths, all the unwitnessed aspects of your experience, and periodically, the pressure must be released. But instead of waiting for these explosive releases, what if you could learn to witness yourself in real time, to feel your emotions as they rise rather than waiting for them, to force their way into your awareness, breathe deeper, and imagine your unwitnessed self not as something chaotic that needs to be controlled, but as something wise that's been trying to guide you back to wholeness. Every emotional rebellion has been carrying information about boundaries that need to be set, truths that need to be spoken, parts of yourself that need more space to exist. Your sudden anger might be pointing toward places where you've been, giving your power away. Your unexpected sadness might be grief that's ready to be processed and released. Your dangerous joy might be life force that's ready to create something beautiful in the world. This is the quantum coherence your rebellious emotions are actually seeking, not the artificial stability of suppression, but the dynamic harmony of a system that's free to move and respond authentically to what's actually happening. When you stop fighting against your emotional rebellions and instead begin to listen to what they're trying to tell you, something remarkable happens. The chaos begins to resolve itself into a more complex, but ultimately more stable pattern. Your unwitnessed self doesn't want to destroy your life, it wants to liberate it. It wants to free you from the exhausting performance of being someone other than who you actually are. It wants to disrupt the patterns that keep you small, scared, and separate from your own aliveness. These emotional rebellions are actually quantum events in your personal field, moments when suppressed energy breaks through into consciousness and creates an opportunity for transformation. Feel how your body relaxes as you consider that you don't have to be afraid of your own intensity anymore. Your emotions, even the big messy ones, are not evidence of your inadequacy, they're evidence of your aliveness. Your unwitnessed self has been trying to show you that authentic emotional expression creates more harmony in your field than suppression ever could. As you settle deeper into rest, imagine making peace with your inner rebel instead of seeing these emotional eruptions as interruptions to your growth. What if you welcome them as expressions of your growth? What if every moment of unexpected feeling was your psyche's way of saying, you're ready to feel this now. You're strong enough to witness what's been waiting in the shadows. Your unwitnessed emotions are not random chaos disrupting your carefully ordered life. They are quantum intelligence breaking through artificial constraints, trying to restore your system to its natural state of dynamic flow. They are love letters from the parts of yourself that refuse to be forgotten, reminders that wholeness includes every aspect of your human experience. Tonight, as you drift toward sleep, let yourself feel grateful for your inner rebel, this part of you that refuses to be diminished, that stages revolutions when necessary, that creates beautiful chaos in service of authentic order. This is not the enemy of your peace. This is the guardian of your aliveness, the keeper of your fire, the part of you that knows the difference between false calm and genuine serenity. What would happen if instead of trying to contain your emotional rebellions, you began to dance with them? Chapter 7, The Alchemy of Allowing. In the gentle darkness of this moment, you begin to understand that emotional alchemy doesn't require changing your feelings, but allowing them to move through you like weather systems across the landscape of your being. There is such profound relief in this recognition that you were never meant to be the controller of your inner climate, but rather its gracious host. As your breath deepens and slows, settling into the natural rhythm that connects you to something larger than your thinking mind, you can sense how each suppressed emotion carries within it a specific quantum signature, a unique frequency that has been waiting patiently for your acknowledgement. These emotional energies haven't disappeared during their time in the shadows of your consciousness. Instead, they have been quietly humming their particular note, contributing to the complex symphony of your being even when you couldn't hear their song. You feel how your body begins to soften as you invite these frequencies to reveal themselves. Each emotion that has been compressed within your cellular memory carries information not just about what happened, but about what wants to heal, what wants to flow, what wants to return to its natural state of movement, expression. This is the beginning of your quantum shift, not the dramatic upheaval you might have imagined. but a soft surrender to the natural flow of your emotional ecosystem. Like a river that has been dammed finally finding its way back to the sea, your feelings begin to remember their original purpose, to move, to flow, to carry the nutrients of experience through the landscape of your soul. Your nervous system, which has held these emotional patterns in careful suspension, begins to feel the first whispers of relief. For so long, it has been working overtime, managing and containing energies that were meant to flow freely. Now, as you create space for what has been compressed, your entire system starts to remember its original coherence, the elegant dance between feeling and releasing, between experience and integration. You can feel this shift happening in your breath, which becomes fuller, more spacious. You can feel it in the softening around your heart, as if invisible hands are gently opening doors that have been locked for years. You can feel it in the way your spine naturally lengthens, creating more room for the currents of life force that want to move through you. The alchemy begins as you stop trying to transform your emotions and start allowing them to transform you. Sadness, when welcomed with presence, becomes a cleansing rain that nourishes the soil of your compassion. Anger, when given space to express its truth, becomes the fierce protector of your boundaries and values. Fear, when met with gentle curiosity, reveals itself as love in its most vigilant form, always watching over what matters most to you. Each emotion carries its own medicine, its own gift, its own piece of the wholeness you have been seeking. As you rest in this knowing, you begin to understand that emotional suppression wasn't just about avoiding discomfort. It was about interrupting the natural cycles of your soul's growth and expression. Your breath moves like a gentle tide now, washing through your system and carrying away the residue of old resistance. With each exhale, you release the need to micromanage your inner experience. With each inhale, you draw in the possibility of hosting your emotions like honored guests, rather than unwelcome intruders. This hosting requires a different kind of strength than the one you've been using. Instead of the rigid strength of control, you discover the fluid strength of presence. Instead of the brittle strength of resistance, you find the supple strength of receptivity. Your nervous system recognizes this ancient wisdom and begins to calibrate itself to this new frequency of allowing. As you settle deeper into this understanding, you might notice subtle sensations moving through your body. Perhaps there's a gentle stirring in your chest where old grief has been waiting. Perhaps there's a warm expansion in your belly where suppressed joy wants to bloom. Perhaps there's a soft trembling in your hands as they remember how to receive the full spectrum of your aliveness. These sensations are not problems to be solved, but invitations to be received. Your body is beginning to trust that you can hold space for whatever arises, that your consciousness has become spacious enough to contain the full range of human feeling without being overwhelmed by it. The quantum field responds to this shift in your internal landscape. As your emotional frequencies begin to flow more freely, they create new patterns of coherence that ripple outward into your reality. What was once static becomes signal. What was once stuck becomes generative. What was once a source of inner conflict becomes a source of inner harmony. You realize that this process of allowing doesn't require you to become someone different, but rather to remember who you have always been beneath the layers of emotional management and control. You are not broken and in need of fixing. You are not chaotic and in need of organization. You are a naturally flowing system that has temporarily forgotten how to trust its own rhythms. Your breath becomes a bridge between the part of you that wants to control and the part of you that knows how to flow. Each gentle inhalation brings you back to the present moment, where emotions can be met with curiosity rather than judgment. Each soft exhalation carries away the accumulated tension of years spent trying to feel differently than you do. In this space of allowing, you begin to sense the interconnectedness of all your emotions, how they work together like instruments in an orchestra, each contributing its unique voice to the larger composition of your experience. Even the emotions you've labeled as negative reveal their positive intent. When given permission to express their truth, your nervous system continues to soften and expand, creating more space for the full spectrum of your humanity. You feel your heart opening like a flower that has been waiting for the right conditions to bloom. You feel your body becoming more fluid, more responsive, more alive with the currents of authentic feeling. As you drift toward the edge of sleep, you carry with you this new understanding of emotional alchemy. You know now that transformation doesn't come from changing what you feel, but from changing how you relate to what you feel. You know that healing doesn't require becoming emotionally perfect, but rather becoming emotionally honest. Your breath has become a gentle lullaby now, carrying you deeper into trust, deeper into allowing, deeper into the recognition that you are safe to feel whatever wants to move through you. Your dreams tonight may carry the whispers of emotions that are ready to flow, ready to complete their ancient cycles, ready to contribute their gifts to your ongoing evolution. From this place of profound allowing, you can rest in the question that has been threading through your journey: what emerges when you stop managing your emotions and start hosting them with presence? And as sleep embraces you with its own form of allowing, you trust that your system will continue this gentle alchemy throughout the night, transforming what has been static into the flowing signal of your authentic self. Chapter 9. The quantum flow of feeling in the gentle cadence of your breath. Something profound begins to shift in your understanding of what emotions actually are. As your body settles deeper into the soft embrace of approaching sleep, you can sense that feelings are not the solid, permanent structures you once believed them to be. They are not problems lodged in your psyche that need to be extracted, nor are they dangerous forces that require constant management and control. Tonight, in the sacred space between consciousness and dreams, you begin to perceive emotions for what they truly are: quantum flows of pure energy, seeking nothing more than natural expression and graceful integration through the landscape of your being. Like water that knows inherently how to flow downhill, like wind that moves through trees without asking permission, your emotions carry within them an innate intelligence about movement, direction, and completion. As your nervous system settles into deeper coherence, you can sense how your previously suppressed feelings begin to stir, not with the violent urgency of a dam bursting, but with the gentle persistence of underground streams, finally finding their way to the surface. This movement doesn't demand dramatic catharsis or emotional overwhelm. Instead, it whispers of a different possibility: the quantum flow of feeling that creates clear channels through your entire field. Your body, in its infinite wisdom, has always known how to process emotional energy. Every cell in your being contains the blueprint for this natural flow. Your tears know how to carry grief through and out of your system. Your laughter knows how to circulate joy through every fiber of your being. Your anger knows how to mobilize your energy toward necessary action, and then naturally dissipate once its message has been delivered. But somewhere along the way, you've learned to interrupt these natural cycles. Perhaps you were taught that certain emotions were unacceptable, or maybe you discovered that feeling deeply led to consequences that felt too risky to bear. So you became like a riverbank that decided to become a dam, instead blocking the natural flow rather than simply providing gentle guidance for its direction. Tonight, as you breathe into the tender spaces within yourself, you're invited to remember what it feels like to be the riverbank rather than the dam. A riverbank doesn't stop the water from flowing. It simply provides a loving container, a gentle guidance system that helps the water move in a direction that serves the larger landscape. The riverbank trusts the water's innate intelligence, while offering just enough structure to prevent flooding. In the quiet darkness of this moment, you can begin to sense how each emotion you've been avoiding carries within it not just energy that needs to move, but also specific information that wants to be received. Your suppressed sadness doesn't just want to be felt, it wants to show you what matters deeply to you, what losses need to be honored so that genuine appreciation can emerge. Your compressed anger doesn't just want to be expressed, it wants to reveal where your boundaries have been crossed, what values need to be protected, what energy needs to be mobilized in service of your authentic life. This is the profound intelligence of quantum flow. Emotions don't just carry energy, they carry information. And this information, when allowed to complete its natural cycle of expression and integration, becomes the very frequency that guides your authentic attractions. Each feeling you allow to move through you creates a clearer channel in your field, a pathway through which your deepest desires can find their way to you. As you rest in this understanding, you might begin to notice subtle shifts in your body. Perhaps there's a gentle loosening in your chest where excitement has been learning to breathe again. Maybe your throat softens as words that have been waiting finally feel safe to form themselves. Your belly might release some of its protective tension as you remember that your gut feelings are guidance, not threats. This isn't something you need to force or direct with your conscious will. Your body knows how to do this dance of feeling and flow. It's been encoded in your cellular memory since before you were born. Your nervous system carries the template for healthy emotional processing, and it's been waiting patiently for you to remember that you can trust its wisdom. The quantum field that surrounds and permeates your being responds to movement, not stagnation. When emotions are allowed to flow naturally through your system, they create coherent wave patterns that communicate clearly with the field of infinite possibility around you. But when emotions are trapped, compressed, or denied, They create standing waves patterns of interference that cloud your magnetic signature and confuse the signals you're broadcasting to the universe. As you allow your breath to guide you deeper into rest, you can sense how your emotional field begins to reorganize itself around this new permission to flow. The heavy, stagnant energies that have been accumulating in your system start to move like gentle currents, carrying away old debris and making space for fresh frequencies to emerge. Your observer effect, that witnessing consciousness that can perceive without needing to control, begins to recognize the profound difference between feeling your emotions and being overwhelmed by them. When you're in flow, you're not swept away by your feelings. You're the conscious riverbank through which they move. You maintain your center, your presence, your grounded awareness, even as you allow the natural tides of your emotional experience to ebb and flow through you. This is what it means to embody your full emotional spectrum without losing yourself in it. You become like a skilled sailor who knows how to work with the wind rather than fighting against it, who can feel the power of the storm without being destroyed by it, who trusts the deeper currents even when the surface waters seem chaotic. In the gentle rhythm of your breathing, you can begin to sense how this emotional flow creates something remarkable in your field. Authentic magnetism. When your emotions are allowed to move naturally, they carry with them the pure frequency of your genuine desires, uncontaminated by the static of suppression or the distortion of control. Your attractions become clearer because your broadcasts become cleaner. Your manifestations align more readily because your field broadcasts coherent rather than contradictory signals. The universe has always been listening to the full spectrum of your emotional transmission, not just the feelings you approve of, but the complete symphony of your inner experience. When you allow the symphony to play itself fully, when you stop conducting with fear and start trusting the natural rhythm of your emotional orchestra, your field begins to sing with unprecedented clarity. As your body continues to soften into the approaching embrace of sleep, you might notice that certain feelings that have been waiting in the wings of your consciousness begin to peek through, not demanding immediate attention, but simply making their presence known. A tender sadness that carries the gift of your sensitive heart, a quiet anger that holds the strength of your convictions, a shy joy that contains the seeds of your natural enthusiasm. These feelings don't need to be processed, analyzed, or resolved. Tonight, they simply need to be welcomed as natural movements in the landscape of your being. Like weather systems that blow through the sky, they have their own timing, their own rhythm, their own natural completion cycles. Your body knows how to metabolize emotional energy just as efficiently as it knows how to digest food or circulate blood. This isn't a skill you need to learn, it's a capacity you need to remember, a natural function you need to trust, an innate intelligence you need to honor. As you drift toward the threshold of dreams, you carry with you this profound recognition. You are not a manager of emotions, but a conscious conduit for their natural flow. You are not a container that must hold everything forever, but a riverbank that can guide the sacred waters of feeling through the landscape of your life with grace, wisdom, and trust. What wants to move through you when you remember that you were designed not to dam the flow, but to dance with it? Chapter 10. The coherent field of authentic desire. There is a stillness that emerges when you stop trying to want the right things. Stop performing desire for an audience that was never really watching. Tonight, as your body settles into the soft sanctuary of approaching sleep, you can feel this stillness like a clear pool of water after a storm has passed. The emotional turbulence has quieted, and in this space of gentle coherence, something beautiful begins to surface. Your authentic desires, emerging like flowers that have been waiting beneath winter. Breathe slowly into this moment, and notice how different this feels from the wanting that exhausts you. For so long, you've been carrying desires that weren't truly yours, the career you thought would make your parents proud, the relationship that looked right on paper, the version of success that seemed to promise safety but never brought satisfaction. These compensatory desires created static in your field, like radio interference that kept you from receiving the clear signal of what your soul actually longs for. Feel how your breath naturally deepens as you let go of the effort to want correctly. There's such relief in this release, such freedom in no longer having to justify your attraction or explain your longings to the part of your mind that thinks it knows better. Your authentic desires don't need your permission to exist, they already are, waiting in the quiet spaces between your thoughts, pulsing gently beneath your awareness like a heartbeat you'd forgotten was there. Your emotional field, now cleared of the debris of suppressed feelings and inherited expectations, begins to function like a tuning fork, resonating only with what truly matches your frequency. You discover that authentic desire isn't something you create or manufacture, it's something you uncover, like an archaeologist brushing away layers of sediment to reveal what was always there. And what emerges is not the frantic wanting of someone trying to fill a void, but the magnetic pull of someone recognizing their own reflection in the world. In this space of quantum coherence, you begin to understand that your truest attractions were never blocked by external circumstances. They were obscured by the emotional static you've been carrying, the frequency of unworthiness that made you reach for what seemed available rather than what called to you. The vibration of old pain that made you choose what felt familiar rather than what felt alive. The resonance of fear that made you settle for what seemed safe rather than what made your heart sink. Breathe deeper now and sense how your cleared field naturally magnetizes experiences that match your authentic frequency. This isn't about getting the universe to give you what you want. It's about becoming so aligned with your true nature that what you attract feels less like acquisition and more like recognition. Like meeting someone and immediately knowing you've been friends for lifetimes, or walking into a space and feeling your soul whisper, yes, this. Your observer self, now resting in gentle awareness rather than anxious monitoring, can witness this process without interfering. You're no longer trying to control or direct your desires, no longer second-guessing every attraction or analyzing every impulse. Instead, you're learning to trust the intelligence of your own magnetic field, the way your authentic frequency naturally calls in experiences that serve your highest unfolding. Feel into your body now and notice what arises when you ask yourself this question, not with your mind, but with your whole being. What do you actually want when you're not trying to want anything at all? Let the answer emerge from the space below your thoughts, from the wisdom that lives in your cells, from the part of you that has never forgotten what brings you fully alive. Perhaps what surfaces surprises you. Maybe you discover that beneath the desire for a specific person, there's a longing for a quality of connection you've never allowed yourself to fully receive. Maybe underneath the want for material success, there's a hunger to express something unique and valuable through your work in the world. Maybe behind the wish for external validation, there's a deep desire to feel at home in your own skin, to move through life with the unshakable knowing that you belong here. These authentic desires carry a different quality than the ones you've been struggling to manifest. They don't feel desperate or grasping. They don't require you to become someone else in order to deserve them. They arise from fullness rather than emptiness, from recognition rather than compensation. And because they emerge from your true frequency, they naturally align with what wants to come toward you, your emotional field, now flowing freely without the dams of suppression or the barriers of protection, creates a coherent signal that the universe can easily read and respond to. You're no longer broadcasting the mixed messages of someone who wants one thing, but believes they deserve another, who desires love but expects betrayal, who longs for success but fears their own power. The clarity of your field creates clarity in what you attract. This is the quantum flow. Your authentic desires naturally create the seamless movement between inner recognition and outer reflection, between being and having, between desiring and receiving. Your cleared emotional field becomes like a perfectly tuned instrument, resonating only with what harmonizes with your true nature. And from this state of coherence, manifestation becomes less about pulling things toward you and more about allowing what's already yours to find its way home. Breathe into this knowing now, feeling how different it is to desire from wholeness rather than from lack. Your authentic attractions don't require you to chase or convince or perform. They arise from the magnetic pull of the frequencies recognizing each other across space and time. They feel less like wanting and more like remembering, less like hoping and more like knowing. As you settle deeper into rest, imagine your authentic desires as seeds that have been planted in perfectly fertile soil. You don't need to dig them up to check their progress or worry about whether they have everything they need to grow. The same intelligence that grows roses and turns acorns into oak trees is tending to the desires that emerge from your authentic nature. Your only job is to remain aligned with your true frequency, to keep your emotional field clear and coherent, to trust the magnetic intelligence of your own becoming. Feel how your body relaxes into this trust, how your nervous system settles when you stop trying to control the how and when of your desires unfolding. There's such peace in knowing that what's truly yours doesn't require force or manipulation or perfect timing. It only requires you to remain authentic, to keep choosing truth over performance, to let your real frequency be your offering to the world. Your authentic desires are not selfish or frivolous. They are the universe's way of expressing itself through the unique constellation of your being. They are the pull toward experiences that will allow you to give your particular gifts, to learn what only you can learn, to love in the way only you can love. They are sacred breadcrumbs leading you toward your most expanded self. Tonight, as sleep approaches, let yourself rest in the coherent field of your authentic desire. Feel how natural it is to want what calls to your soul, how right it is to be drawn toward what will help you become more fully yourself. Your desires are not obstacles to your spiritual growth, they are expressions of it. Invitations to expand into the fullness of who you came here to be, what wants to be born through you that only requires you to be willing to receive it. Chapter 11, the symphony of integrated being in the deep quiet of this moment. You rest in the symphony of your integrated being, emotions flowing like rivers, finding their natural course, your observer consciousness witnessing with loving presence, your heart beating in coherent rhythm with the pulse of creation itself. Your desires clear as mountain streams reflecting the sky. This is not a state you have achieved through effort, but a wholeness you have remembered through allowing. Feel how your breath moves through you now with such natural grace, no longer requiring your management or attention. It flows as part of the larger breathing of the cosmos, connecting you to the infinite field of possibility that has always been your true home. Each inhale draws in the recognition of who you are. Each exhale releases any lingering belief that you were ever separate from your own completeness. This is the natural state of quantum manifestation, not a technique to be performed with precision, but a way of being to be embodied with trust. You understand now that manifestation was never about convincing the universe to give you what you want, but about becoming so aligned with your authentic frequency that what you desire naturally magnetizes toward you through the law of resonance. Your nervous system has found its rhythm, settling into the coherent patterns that emerge when resistance dissolves, and flow becomes your default state. The chronic tension that once lived in your shoulders has melted into fluid strength. The tightness around your heart has expanded into spacious love. The knot in your throat has opened into authentic expression. Your entire system hums with the frequency of integrated wholeness. You can feel how your emotional field has cleared its static, those chaotic frequencies that once created interference in your quantum signal. Where there was once emotional turbulence, there is now the gentle current of feelings flowing in their natural cycles. Sadness moves through you like cleansing rain, leaving the air of your consciousness fresh and clear. Joy bubbles up from your depths like a natural spring, needing no reason other than your own aliveness. Even anger, when it arises, moves through you like a protective fire that burns away what no longer serves, while leaving your essence untouched. Your quantum signature now broadcasts with unprecedented clarity, sending out waves of coherent information into the field of infinite possibility. This signature is not manufactured or contrived, it is simply the natural emanation of who you are. When you stop trying to be someone else, it carries the unique frequency of your soul's purpose, your heart's deepest knowing, your body's ancient wisdom, all harmonized into one clear song. The reality shift you've been seeking wasn't about changing your external world through force or manipulation, but about coming home to the coherent wholeness you've always been beneath the layers of suppression and adaptation. You realize now that the world has always been shifting in response to your inner frequency, but the static in your system made it impossible to perceive this intimate dance between consciousness and reality. As you rest in this understanding, you feel the profound relief of no longer needing to make anything happen. The desperate energy of trying to control outcomes has dissolved into the graceful flow of aligned action. You trust now that when you move from this place of integrated coherence, your actions ripple out into the world with perfect timing, touching exactly what needs to be touched, creating exactly what wants to be created. Your breath has become a gentle symphony itself, orchestrating the harmony between your inner and outer worlds. Each breath cycles through the four chambers of your being, physical sensation grounding you in embodied presence, emotional flow connecting you to the currents of life, mental clarity illuminating the path ahead, and spiritual knowing anchoring you in the infinite. You feel how this integration has transformed not just your inner landscape, but your entire relationship with existence. Where you once felt like a separate individual trying to extract what you needed from an indifferent universe, you now experience yourself as an integral part of the cosmic symphony, both composed by it and composing it through your very being. The desires that once felt desperate and grasping now rise as natural expressions of life's creativity moving through you. You want what you want not from a place of lack, but from a place of overflow. Your dreams are not attempts to fill inner emptiness, but celebrations of the fullness that already lives within you, seeking new forms of expression. As you settle deeper into this recognition, you might notice how your body has become a temple of presence, every cell vibrating with the frequency of integrated awareness. Your heart beats with the rhythm of cosmic love. Your lungs breathe with the pulse of universal life force. Your nervous system flows with the current of infinite intelligence. This is what you came here to remember, not that you are a small, separate self who must struggle to survive in a hostile world, but that you are consciousness itself exploring its own infinite creativity through the particular lens of your unique being. Every experience you've had, including the pain and confusion, has been perfect training for this moment of recognition. Your emotional mastery is not about controlling your feelings, but about allowing them to flow through the clear channel of your awareness without attachment or resistance. Your mental clarity is not about having all the answers, but about resting in the spacious knowing that transcends all questions. Your physical vitality is not about perfect health, but about loving your body as the sacred vessel through which spirit experiences itself in form. The quantum field responds to this integrated coherence with unprecedented grace. Synchronicities begin to appear like flowers blooming in the garden of your life. The right people appear at the right times. Opportunities unfold with effortless timing. Resources flow to you as naturally as water flows downhill. This is not magic. This is the natural result of broadcasting a clear, coherent signal into a responsive universe. As you drift toward sleep, you carry this frequency with you like a gentle flame that will continue burning throughout the night. Your dreams will be infused with this coherence, creating new neural pathways that support your continued evolution. Your rest will be deep and restorative, allowing your system to integrate these new patterns of wholeness even more fully. You know now that what you are is what you attract. Your outer world is always a reflection of your inner frequency, and as that frequency becomes more coherent, more authentic, more integrated, your reality responds with ever greater beauty, meaning, and fulfillment. You are not separate from the creative force of the universe. You are one of its most intimate expressions. Your breath has become a lullaby now, carrying you toward the threshold of sleep where conscious awareness dissolves into the larger dreaming of existence. You rest in the knowing that every moment of your life has been preparing you for this integration, this coherence, this embodied recognition of who you truly are. From this place of profound wholeness, you can rest in the question that completes your journey. What world wants to be born through your authentic coherence? And as sleep embraces you with its own form of integration, you trust that your dreams will show you glimpses of the reality that is already beginning to crystallize around your newly coherent frequency, a world that reflects back to you the love, beauty, and possibility that you have finally learned to embody.